Bank holiday weekend, have you got out planned? And really, things about bank holiday. Let's do something. But everybody else is saying let's do something. Everybody's rammed in it. So I'm a big fan of that myself. Wednesday news, everything's pretty quiet. There's been some talk that Russell Martin wants to take Henrik Pedersen to Leicester as part of his backroom staff and this and other. I think it's worth bearing in mind that Russell Martin ain't got a job yet. Röhl van Nistelrooy is still in post, and he did an interview 5 days ago talking about he's got a job to finish and one thing and another. So unless he gets sacked in the next couple of days, don't know where that's come from. I can see the appeal that somebody would want Pedersen, but as far as I'm concerned, he's settled in Sheffield, he's got his family here, and I think possibly as well, that he might have one eye on the top job here, because all the Danny Röhl stuff is still unresolved. He's under contract. Mr. Chance said he's obviously going to hold him to that contract and hold out for a compensation fee. Do people really pay them compensation fees for managers though? Obviously we got some money for Bruce, but other clubs, I'm struggling to think where anyone's paid for a gaffer recently. Tends to be sniffing around when contracts coming up, innit? So there's all that to be resolved. Danny's obviously over in Germany, but the clock's ticking towards new season. I know we say, it's summer, relax, enjoy yourself, don't worry about that, but that clock is ticking away. Other clubs will be already busy and at it, looking at recruitment for next season and getting players in. I'm sure there'll be talks already happening up and down the country if tapping up's not, already occurred while season was still in play. I would like to see something resolved there. I'm trying to imagine what the atmosphere would be like that first game of the season if Danny is back in dugout, or whether it'd all be water under the bridge. I think it's vital though, that we make the distinction between the mood online and the mood in the stadium, because online is very, it's either end at scale, everything's black or white, isn't it? And real life, things aren't black and white, it's that grey area in the middle. So, I think he's been getting some stick and vitriol online, on Twitter and whatever else. In the stadium, once the team's run out, I genuinely think he'll get backed again by the support. I do, because I think it's a different mindset when you're at the game to, sat at home pissed up after a defeat, getting stressed and effing and blinding, and this player should never play for the club again, and managers are hard and blah blah blah. So, but something does need to be resolved, even if it's in terms of if he's going to stay, which is a possibility, I suppose, with the contract. That him or the club or whoever says exactly that, he's under contract. If the best thing would be if he came out and said it. I'm under contract, I've got a job at Sheffield Wednesday, I'm focused on that. Obviously I like to work in Bundesliga at some stage, but what will be till that stage. So that's one thing. The other thing it's very quiet on, and I've had a few messages, are you going to do a video about the takeover? I can only do a video about takeover if there's out to report, and at the minute there ain't out to report. And there's unlikely to be, stuff goes on behind the scenes. And I don't know how quickly people think these things happen. I mean, if you consider when you buy a house, I can remember when me and Alice bought our first house, that went on for months and months, and that was just a little terraced house. The football club, a huge business like that with everything in that, it's not going to be sorted overnight. That is going to be a long wait. That could take months and months and months. That could take a year, who knows. We bought our house and I remember all the chasing you permanently. Is anything happening? And solicitors, yeah, things are moving, and you're having to chivvy them all the way, and there's all paperwork to be sorted out, and they're looking into everything. Mind you, we had a delay on ours. I kept ringing up and I'm like, we should be near the end of this process now. I kept ringing up. We were just waiting on some final bits of paperwork. They kept saying, why is it taking so long, this or that? Then eventually they got in touch with solicitors at the other end. Oh no, we've sent you that. Anyway, it turned out my solicitor is PA was away on holiday. They got a temp in. The paperwork had come. But she'd filed it in the wrong part of the filing cabinet. Because she'd filed it, obviously alphabetical order, but she'd filed it with my first name instead of surname. I mean, that's surely one of the basics of filing. You know, it's going to be A to Z in surnames. Mind you, do we even have proper secretaries anymore? Everybody's an office manager these days, aren't they? And when secretaries were proper, they went to secretarial college, they learnt shorthand, they knew how to run stuff, they knew how to file stuff. They knew that you filed by surname in alphabetical order. I don't know, office manager. Office support. Proper old school secretaries, that's what you need. And that was a proper job, that was a proper career. People now, I think they see like secretarial work as a stepping stone to something else. Nobody wants to come in and say, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it really well. Sorry, that's a bit of a tangent. But do you know what I mean? You want people who want to do that job and don't just see it as a passport to doing something else. Even I know how to file. And I'm a pleb. I can't do shorthand, no. Yes, a takeover. No news is possibly good news. I suspect that means there's things going on behind the scenes. The other thing you've got to remember as well, of course, is it's one thing saying somebody's made an approach. That's an entirely different thing to somebody making a bid. And say, bid is right, here's my offer, blah, 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 and then there's all that process of going through. But if somebody's just made contact to talk about that, again, that adds time to it. So I don't think it'll be anywhere near ready for the start of next season if anything does go ahead. And I've seen the lad who did the 1867 news second load of stick online, and he has posted some things that I've thought, well, that's a bit odd, or I don't particularly agree with that. But whether anything comes of that or not, or whether it's just in the know, social media, or whatever, what I would always say is, there's somebody who got off their arse when Chancery was saying, go and find me a buyer. There's somebody who got off their arse and went, okay, I'll try to. And even if that don't come to anything, what it has done is get the ball rolling and potentially attracted other interested parties who said, well, looks like somebody's having a sniff around Wednesday, maybe we will. So to that end, I think that's only a positive thing, you know. Anything else is distraction, isn't it? But I think that has certainly got the ball rolling. Season as a whole. Oh, I'll tell you what I do want to talk about. I don't want to talk about Spurs being in European Cup, finishing 16th. How is that ever right? I understand them getting in Europa League again next season. Understandable, you won it. You're getting it the following season. Getting in Champions League. How's that ever right? Honestly, I would love it if they just went back to old days and said, right, Champions League is a new rule. Interesting concept. It's called Champions League. So the new rule is you've got to be champions to get in it. How's about that? You've got to win your league to get in it. 16th in Premier League, in Champions League. And that's not against Spurs. I'd be saying the same if Man United or whoever else had won it. That cannot be right. Go back to European Cup, UEFA Cup, and Cup Winners' Cup. I used to love Cup Winners' Cup when I was young. All these crack European sides, cup competitions, I like that. I'd go back. It's probably why I never get a job with FIFA, because they won't be making billions and billions and trillions of pounds, would they? Because it would be about having a football competition rather than a money-making racket to make the biggest clubs in the world even bigger and even richer and pulling away from the rest and creating some sort of European elite, which makes me sick. Police for Palace, watch that, a cup final. Their first ever silverware. I didn't know that before the game. That's really pleased for them, because they've always been thereabouts. So when it names you always know when you're a kid. And I've always liked some football team names. I've always liked But obviously, our own Sheffield Wednesday, I love that. Crewe Alexandra, that's another one I always like. Crewe Alexandra. Preston North End. Crystal Palace. I like them names that, they've got something about them. And when I was younger, when I used to listen to results coming in at 5 o'clock, there was something sort of mythical about hearing them names being read out on radio. Plymouth Argyle. Crewe Alexandra. Hamilton Academicals. Do you know what I mean? There was something, you sit there and listening to it. Oh, wow. Almost like otherworldly. Because the world was a small place then anyway. There were no Google and all like that. I'd got no idea where Hamilton were. I was just like, what's her name's that? Partick Thistle. Yeah. Do sort of miss that. There was sort of innocence to it, I suppose. And I used to buy them Rothman's Yearbook with all squads in. I mean, you couldn't do it these days because players moved that much, and half your Rothman's Yearbook would be full of bloody Chelsea loan players, wouldn't they? But you know what I mean. And squads tended to stay the same, didn't they? About one or two editions. Wraith Rovers. Different times. Yeah, delighted for Palace. Went off there a bit now. Delighted for Palace. And you know when you saw them camera panning round and you saw them fans there, the first trophy they've ever won, and you've seen how much it means. And that's what FA Cup should be about, isn't it? Yeah. And when it were panning City fans, they were like, they didn't look that distraught, did they? But then they're hardly likely to, because they've won everything else, but see them Palace fans crying. Winning team and fans are crying, and that's what it means. That famous old trophy. That's what FA Cup should be about. I was delighted they won. Cost me money in my accumulator, but I'm still glad they won. Then, of course, yesterday's game, I'm not going to gloat. I'm not, because it is a bad time losing at Wembley, and to lose it that deep into injury time, absolute killer. So if I am having a bit of a laugh with my United mates, I'll be letting dust settle a bit first, because that'll be very raw. I've got to be honest about it. I never saw them losing that game. I never saw them lose. I thought they were in total control of that game. And Sunderland, I thought they were running out of ideas. They had plenty of ball. They couldn't find a cute pass, could they, right edge of box. And, Wilder will get criticised, I'm sure, for his tactics and being negative, but I thought his tactics had worked, especially first half. I've seen Sunderland about 4 or 5 times this season. They've been really good at hitting teams on break, but different kettle of fish when you're at one with possession at ball, and they couldn't break them down. And I messaged one of the lads, I said, the only way they're going to score is if they get people running at them, because they're passing. They weren't going to pass it through. And I've seen people saying Wilder were negative in second half, and perhaps he were a bit, but you've got to credit opposition manager as well, because he's made a couple of changes that I thought really injured it. Roberts coming on, and he gave exactly what I was saying. Runs at defences. If a team's sat back, compact, and you can't pass it through them, you've got to find other ways. So can you get down the side and get crosses in? No. Can you go over the top? No, they couldn't, because United were deep, not leaving that space behind. He's come on, drove at them to get that equaliser. And then, of course, the last goal, which is the killer goal. I feel a bit sorry for Kiefer Moore there. I do, because I thought he had a terrific game other than that. A brilliant header in first half. And it's decision-making, innit? And it's small moments, like I said, Wilder's getting hammered. But they had a lad just before, was it Brooks? 2-0 there, that's game over. That's absolutely game over. And people will then be saying, perfectly executed plan. Do you know what I mean? But over the course of the season, 90 points, that's got to be considered a good year, hasn't it? Leeds and Burnley, the 2 outstanding teams. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not sticking up for Wilder as such here, because I don't think he does United any favours with his behaviour. But they're talking about the sack. That'd be a bit harsh, I think. But yeah, I'll probably not be mentioning it on Tuesday morning. Let it settle down a bit, I think. But yeah, I thought they were in complete control. Like I said, sometimes you've got a little bit of credit to opposition. A couple of little changes from their gaffer. Roberts coming on, driving at them. And like I said, that Lefay or whatever he's called, dropping inside. Am I getting mixed up? Not Morgan Lefay, that were Camel. Oh well. So, bit gutted for me United supporting friends, and I mean that because I know some very good lads who's travelled all the way down there, and not really gutted for Wilder, obviously, because of the way he conducts himself. And so, gutted for them, but not for him. And pleased for Sunderland. Big club, back in Premier League, something a little bit different, rather than the same couple of teams going up and down all the time. So, and they've got a huge support, haven't they? I think if they go up, be right back in. See if they can stay. It's going to be hard, though, isn't it? I mean, they've got a really, really young team. And that gulf between Premier and top at Championship, it's wider and wider every year. And I do genuinely worry that it's going to get to a stage where it's just the same three up and down every year. I really do. I really do. I mean, you've got to go up, chuck hundreds of millions at it, and hope you don't get down and get done. That's the only way to do it. Forest skirted it, didn't they? They just about got away with it. And then I've managed to build on that. But if it goes wrong, you're tated, aren't you? Absolutely tated. I mean, I did get a message from one of my United mates last night, and he said, I weren't actually that gutted. He went, because going up, he said, you're just going to get battered every week. And that's a sad indictment of where football is and where the top flight in the Premier League is. Obviously upset at losing the game itself, because it's never nice to lose, especially not nice to lose at Wembley. That's, and all that trek home. But when in cold light of day, you say, well, Championship next season, I'm going to see more wins. I'm probably going to see some entertaining football. We're not going to be getting battered every week. Like I said, I really think that's a sad view of the way English football's gone. But I'd be very interested to see how Burnley do, actually. I mean, they've gone up absolute clean sheets for fun this season. They've got that centre half, I forget his name, who celebrates every goal line clearance like he's just won World Cup, getting it full Tardelli. Which I like to see. I love defenders who love defending. But record number of clean sheets. How many clean sheets will they get next season? It's that gulf. I'll be interested to see how they do. But it's the top flight. I just feel like it's becoming a cartel, isn't it? It really is becoming a cartel. And like I said, it's nice to see Sunderland up there, because I see teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, and no offence to them, but you know what I mean. And then I see clubs of the size of Wednesday, Sunderland, Leeds, Sheffield United, down here and bumping about. I mean, when I was a kid, Coventry were a fixture in top flight, But I mean, that a club with an average gate of 10,000 can stay in the Premier League, sustain itself in the Premier League, and here's the key thing, sign players that even 15 years ago would never have looked twice. It's so bizarre. And I go back to that thing, I forget the name of the lad, but it was a kid last summer, who went to Bournemouth, and the other club that was sniffing him was AC Milan. And he went to Bournemouth. It doesn't matter which way I dress that up, my head will never get around that. San Siro, Dean Court. That's just money, innit? That's pure money. It's the only thing that I do about, like I was saying before, about listening to football scores come in and listening to them names being read out. There's like a mystical element to it, and there's a sort of order to things as well. And every season that goes by, I mean, I love football. I love the game itself and watching it and seeing how things pan out and seeing good flair players. Although that seems to be something else that's sort of been almost coached out of the game now, flair players. No, I mean it. I look back, even players that played for other clubs, because you can appreciate players that play for other clubs, but David Ginola, what a player. What are you getting now? Can you imagine Ginola playing in that Man City team? Because I can't. Think about Chris Waddle playing for us. Would he fit in now? Everything seems to be, games and tactics seem to be, everything's to the nth degree, you know. And yet you can still have cock-ups. That's the real beauty of football. You know, can coach players to within an inch of their lives and draw up pitch into little grids, and you don't go out of this box until this happens, and then you can go into this box, and and then a centre half can, you know, ball can go under his foot and it's all out at window. That's what I like about football, that sort of flair, chaos, mistakes. That's football to me. I do find it a little bit chess-like at times now, you know. I mean, we were talking the other day about Grealish. No, he's not a player. And I says, well, he ain't there, is he? Because he's not allowed to do what a flair player would do. If he's playing anywhere else and you said, right, ball, get ball, son, do what you want. He'll win you hundreds of free kicks, he'll get you assists. No, run to byline, and when you get there, make sure you turn back and give it to your fullback. So, you're seeing that up and down land. Up and down land. I mean, playoffs, I don't particularly agree with playoffs. I never have done. And don't get me wrong, some wonderful times watching Wednesday, because, you know, we've got a good record in playoffs. And I don't like it. I think, you know, and I am sticking up for United here, but I said it the first playoffs I can remember when Portsmouth finished, nearly 20 points ahead of whoever it were, and they didn't go up. Paul Walsh, Guy Whittingham, that team, Darren Anderton. So I've never agreed with it since then. But what I've got to say is, they are exciting, aren't they? They are exciting games. You've got to get that. And the playoffs almost remind me as a bit of a flashback of how all football used to sort of feel to me. Every league game, go out, two teams, have a go at it. Seemed to be like that every week, whereas now it's like chess matches. And then you get a big game, like a playoff, and it's like, right, teams are like, right, we've got it shit or bust, you know. But I used to feel like it was shit or bust every week. Yeah, like I said about this, bit of a ramble, but not much else to talk about, is there? Just waiting for news. Sat there clicking refresh. Come on, something happen. Anyway, what are you up to this weekend? Not interesting. Bank holidays. I think peak bank holidays for me were when I was about 19, because bank holidays when I was 19, boozer, all day Sunday. Love that, especially if there might be a game on or some or a European competition. Sun out, beer garden. Up at Banner. Roger Wee's drum. Marvellous. Bank holidays these days a bit different. Don't really suck much. And days out. Everywhere's rammed, aren't they? Disposable barbecues, burning grass everywhere. Maybe I'm just getting miserable as I get older. Anyway, sorry, it's not been much of a video. Not very informative. I don't like that. There we go. I mean him. He's like a throwback, innit? A proper centre forward. And if you were a winger, you'll be itching to just put loads of crosses in, wouldn't you, for him? But no, get it back into midfield. I mean, it's alright when you've got best players in the world, but you've got teams in bloody third division trying it, haven't you? Bizarre. What's the best way to play football? The way that suits your players. The way that gives your players the best opportunity to win a game. That's the best way to play football. Yeah. I think we do overcomplicate things, don't we? Trends. That's it. Trends. It's like Spain and France and all that. You know, France won World Cup. They've got a centre of excellence. We better get one of them. That's the model. And Spain went World Cup and Euros. With them, it's all about short passes on floor, giving goals. We'll start doing that. It's true, isn't it? Always looking at other countries' DNA and saying, right, that's what we need to do. Well, the best way to look at anything is go, that's not bad. We'll take a bit of that. That's a decent idea. We'll take a bit of that. That's the best way to do it. Take the best of all what they do. Don't just follow. We'll do that. Oh, it don't suit us. We're going to do that. That don't suit us. We're going to just take a bit and add it to your own national DNA. And, you know, let's argue with this years back. You don't see their players charging about. And so you won't do. It's 95 degrees, you know. But of course, they're not going to charge about. Here, it's freezing cold and pissing it down. Got to run about and just keep warm sometimes. Don't lose what makes you what you are. It's right, isn't it? It's 95-inch shade. Well, conserve your energy. Make ball loop work. Take the best of everybody, but keep your own identity, you know. And sometimes that means getting in the fucking mixer, doesn't it? That's it now. I've finished. Enjoy your bank holiday weekend. Go.